It's eviction night.
This is definitely not the end of Occupy Portland. You know, this is one phase.
The midnight deadline nears.
Camps already clearing out.
We have outreach workers here that are talking to people that need shelter.
But the crowds grow. Police patrol and unmask the dark with floodlights.
I'm not about to gamble my life or my safety on it.
The big question now, will the protesters occupy or obey?
Good evening, I'm Joe Donlin.
And I'm Tracy Berry. We are now only 1 hour out from the Occupy deadline.
Everyone right now just basically waiting to see what happens next.
We don't know what the police are doing. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know if 55,000 people are going to show up. We don't know what's going to happen.
Police put up huge floodlights and they're patrolling the parks. Demonstrators are also equipped. Many have their faces covered and are prepared with gas masks.
I'm very excited, but I'm also, I'm concerned because I've seen how it went in Oakland and I've seen violence at several occupations from the police to the peaceful protesters.
Take a look over my left-hand shoulder, several police officers on horseback standing at the ready, and then further away, take a look at this, across the street from the encampments. Look at all this. This is a crowd that has gathered. These are not demonstrators. These are simply spectators who have descended on this downtown area.
This crowd has really swelled in the past hour to 2 hours. Earlier in the evening, several hundred people. Now, I would say well over 1,000.
All day long, the parks employees have been out here helping people break down their tents, and we've been removing debris, and our homeless outreach workers have been helping people get to a better place, shelters and motels.
We're joined now by Randy Blazak, a professor of sociology at PSU.
The end game is not clear, and this is going to be one of the challenges of this movement as it moves into the next phase, to say, okay, here's a list, here's a 10-point program, or here's a handful of issues that we would like to see some tangible movement on. And if it can't do that, it'll probably just sort of fade into the background.
It is definitely part spectacle and part protest. I would say within the last 10 minutes or so, I've certainly felt a very large uptick in that tension in the air as people are waiting for that countdown, which is now just a few minutes away.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, certainly an interesting reaction to this deadline that police set for these folks to get out of Chapman and Lonsdale squares. At this point, it appears to be almost a celebration. They're passing around the bubbly, they're cheering, they're dancing, and everyone thought this would kind of be the time when police would be coming in to potentially make arrests, but instead, it's more of a party.
I'm seeing at least a handful of police officers just standing here in full riot gear, but pretty much allowing them to just be joyful and seem to be having a good time.
It feels absolutely amazing. The mayor, I think, underestimated the amount of support that Occupy Portland has, and I think we're seeing that right now. I mean, we have thousands of people down here. It's peaceful. The only people with weapons are the police. The message is that we all know something is wrong. And we all have to have a big discussion about it. For me, it's the simplest form of the message.
Tensions are definitely starting to rise a little bit. If you take a look at this live shot right here, we just noticed within the last few seconds, literally, that this large group of people who, as we already saw earlier, were dancing and having a great time, taking over Main Street, have now started to push their way towards police. Now, I would definitely call that a clash. They started to push the police officers pushed back. We're seeing a lot more people starting to converge closer right to the corner of 3rd and Main here, kind of right as that push happened towards police. We noticed a lot of these people just literally start rushing right to that corner.
Police are trying to remove protesters from 3rd Avenue. They've stepped in front of the line of traffic and are blocking traffic right now. An officer working to clear the way.
Now keep in mind there is no food down here. The porta potties are gone. And the people down here are getting restless. They're kind of wondering, when am I going to get arrested? I've heard that several times.
Oh my gosh.
For a certain generation, people who were born in the 80s and the 70s, there's never really been a social movement like this. So it's like, for some of those folks, this is their generational moment.
This has just gotten very tense. Go ahead and take a look here. We have the mounted police that have just come through and started to push their way in. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but the police have started to put their riot gear on, and they've started starting to push through. They're run through right now. Take a look if you can see. And they're starting to push through. It looks like there's somebody down. There's somebody down right here. I'm not sure if that's a police officer or not. They're trying to put through the loudspeakers. They're yelling, "You need to get out of the road."
It looks like, is that an officer who's been injured right there, Abby?
That is a police officer, yes, that has been injured.
Now there's a scuffle. Chief Mike Reese is involved in the scuffle. There you can see.
The officer that we saw injured and taken away earlier, the Portland Police Department is now confirming that that officer was hit by some kind of a projectile. The Portland police have been emphasizing that it's been peaceful until this point, and that's the way they wanted to keep it, but there is a certain faction that has been hoping for confrontation, and it looks like it's occurring in some places.
Where emergency circumstances require, you may be subject to the use of force, including chemical agents and impact weapons.
Now it's a whole different tact. You can see their shoulder to shoulder. They have a lot longer of a club, if you will, and again, it's more for containment.
This actually
is
is
the
the
officer.
okay, who was hit in the leg by a projectile, and you can see he's in some pain there as they load him onto that stretcher and then take him off for treatment, but we heard from Lieutenant King that he was going to be okay. Let's check in now with Jordan Ledoux. Jordan, we've heard from you. I don't know whether you have an official title, but you've been sort of the de facto spokesperson for Occupy Portland.
I think the plan is to just wait. We're not going to start anything. We're not going to instigate anything. It's kind of up to the police to decide what they want to do.
But things are a little more relaxed now. People just really milling around, taking pictures, and waiting for something to happen. And you almost have to wonder if that's what police want and have wanted all along.
These folks came through here, got caught in the traffic when it was all blocked up, and they've since started kind of a dance party.
I would kind of say I would have to agree with that number that we just talked about. I would say it's easily into a few thousand people still.
There was a moment there where it was tense and it looked like it might spin out of control, but both sides de-escalated. And that allows both sides to regroup and clarify their message and turn this into something that could be a beginning as opposed to an ending of a social movement.
And this is continuing now as we come up on 4 in the morning.
Every once in a while you'll hear a chant, they'll say, "Back to the parks, back to the parks," but there has never been, at least since we've been out here, any major movement to take the parks back. I think they feel like they're having a bigger impact by remaining in the streets.
These right here, these plywood pieces are things that they had actually in their camp that they've been bringing out within the last few minutes. And let's walk over this way and you can kind of see through here how long it goes all the way through, and they're trying to build it all the way through Main Street.
They intend to open this intersection, and if folks don't, then they risk the possibility of arrest. Folks are retreating. This is interesting to see. You can see the demonstrators backing away. They are indeed moving back to the sidewalks, moving back towards the square, and it appears the demonstrators are retreating after this face-off that we've witnessed here for several hours. During the situation, as demonstrators were cheering and very excited, they decided to give a round of applause to the Portland Police Bureau and then began to chat, "You are the 99%, you are the 99%.
The police lieutenant said, "Hey, can you take down the barricades? If you do that, we'll let you go back into the parks." Okay, here we go. The occupiers right now taking down the blocks themselves. The barricades are coming down.
We're going to be assisting the Parks Bureau with the restoration of the park. We're going to continue that mission today. Parks Bureau is coming in to move garbage out. I anticipate additional people will move their tents out.
Until those parks are vacant, our Portland Parks and Recreation ecologists and survey teams can't go in there and do the work we need to do to make the parks usable for all people again.
It does not look like a city park that we know. It looks completely different. I mean, I almost at a loss for words at times looking at this.
There's a lot of us, and there'll be a lot of people out, I think today and in coming days, who are going to help beautify the park and restore it to its condition.
The parks are open until we close them to the public, which will include a fence, and it'll be very obvious when they're closed to the public.
In many demonstrations, both
here in the past and in other cities, there's a flashpoint. There's something that happens that starts the confrontations, and it very well could have happened last night. We're fortunate it didn't. It really looks like people are down there picking up, cleaning up. We've got city trucks down there to help with that, and you know, if we do have to end up going through and removing people who are vetted and just don't want to leave, it'll be able to be done fairly peacefully and fairly easily.
And there are several people that are being zip-tied right now and arrested. Now, I was over there when all of this happened initially, and those folks were given the choice to leave to go to another park. They chose to stay. Many of them linked hands and just waited.
We are actually getting some video right now where we can see some of these people who are being arrested as you're describing them from this last remaining tent that was inside of Chapman Square Park.
They're being arrested peaceably. They're not taking action against the police.
And it is just absolutely not clear at all. As you take a look, you can see that it goes back an entire city block of people. They've got some tear gas rounds and pepper spray, and also I have seen some guns with the non-lethal rounds as well. You can see people are holding up peace symbols with their hands, chants, and basically, hey, the protest is on once again.
You can see more of those metal chain link fences are getting put up. This is what the mayor talked about, closing down the parks, and today is that day.
And we're just here to keep them back, let the parks guys do their job, and then once that happens, we'll be able to reopen the streets, and frankly, I think most people will go home or go on about their day.
We've been following this for a couple of hours, this stalemate that's going on between the police, Portland Police, and other police agencies who are acting as backup for them, and the protesters.
I think there's a couple of different ideas about what to do next, and not clear which way to go.
I guess it's entirely possible they could wait to get all the fencing up around both parks and then just walk away and let it diffuse that way. They're telling the crowd that they are going to reopen Main Street to vehicular traffic. And you can see the police are moving back. And they're going through on Main. And we've got people in the intersection and traffic being allowed through now. They are moving, and I believe they're going to Pioneer Courthouse Square. At least that's what we were hearing they plan to do. The chant went out, March, here's our camera. March.
There's no longer any protests in those squares. The tents have been taken down. More than 50 people arrested in the past 24 hours, and what is surprising, I think, to all of us who have been anticipating this, only one officer injured as a result of the deoccupation of the downtown parks.
22 people have just arrived. All 22 were arrested at about 1 o'clock this afternoon from the park blocks. And I'm going to walk over just a little bit for you. And there's a woman right now who's holding her citation, and she's holding her plastic handcuffs in pride right now, along with her gas mask.
Many of these people have no desire to stop this Occupy movement and to stop camping someplace within Portland.
Well, this is basically American rights in action, our right to voice our opinion. Whether or not it's popular, as long as you are peaceful and you have a goal, you should be able to voice your opinion. Basically, this is democracy in action. I mean, this is what we fought for. This is what the Constitution exists for.
And it was pretty amazing to see the restraint on both sides, really, and the resolution of the group marching away and to this location here at Pioneer Courthouse Square, where they've been for a few hours now and trying to decide just what's next. So that's where it stands right now. They're looking for those who need a place to stay tonight, the immediate issue at hand, where they'll go, and then beyond that, the bigger picture of where this movement is going to end up and where it's going to carry on from here.